see done. How do you raise up and train new leadership for groups?
Yeah, what we've found is that out of the D groups in our church, that's where our leadership comes from. Not only to lead other D groups or lead life groups, but also staff members. Some of our best staff members, the majority of our staff now are from the inside. Now watch how cool this is. I've hired guys from the outside that you have before. The guys from the inside we found are more loyal. They understand the mission and vision of the church. They understand the DNA of the church. And here's the adage: if you hire from the outside, you can expect for the culture to change. If you raise up from the inside, you preserve the DNA and culture of your church. And so the same thing goes for the groups as well. And so that's our leadership mechanism for raising up leaders. We don't have much of a problem anymore. We did when I first got here. You know, who's going to teach class? We don't have any teachers. How are we going to lead groups? How are we going to do life groups? Well, now we have so many people being raised up in these D groups, and it's just amazing. Now, what we find is the bigger issue for us is how do you start this in the church? Because the two biggest challenges for people getting involved in discipleship we found are ignorance and uncertainty. Uncertainty is they don't know what to do. So you know this. It's very difficult, almost impossible, to take someone on a journey you've never been on. So if you don't know where you're heading, it's going to be difficult for them to follow. But equally and as challenging is the ignorance. When people don't know what to do as far as leading people in a group and not having material, they just won't do it. And so what we say is if you don't know what to do, and this is why people I think aren't engaged in discipleship as much as we would expect. If you don't know what to do, you don't do anything at all. And I think that has paralyzed and crippled our people. And so for us, we put these guardrails into discipleship, and we say, in these D groups, and we say, listen, you can do anything you want. You can read books, you can do some of those things, but the Bible's going to be the baseline. And so what our people do is I have this here method we do: highlight, explain, apply, respond. It's a journaling method. It's in my book. I wrote about it, about this method for journaling, which has been reproducible. I've used it with guys who are just coming off of drugs and alcohol. I've used it with 50-year-old deacons in our church. And what's beautiful is it eliminates the excuses that people say of, we don't know how to hear from God, or the Bible doesn't apply to me. I don't know what to do with the Bible. Well, this eliminates that, because every week they come, and it's not just me as a lecturer teaching students. Like you said, we're not meeting in rows, we're meeting in circles now. And everyone participates, and when people begin to own their faith and you expect them to reproduce, the greatest blessing of discipleship and group ministry is not being in the group, it's when you get to lead the group. I mean, I love discipleship. I was mentored years ago, had the privilege of spending time with David Platt, came off a drug and alcohol addiction, got to spend 2 years with David. He invested in me, and that was a great time. Wouldn't trade that for anything. But the times I've had of investing in other guys now far exceed the time with him, because it's seeing other people succeed and having those aha moments and owning their faith, and it's just been a joy to see that.
That's great. You hear that all the time. People who are invested in leadership talk about how much more they get out of what they're able to do, how they're pouring into other people. It really is. It's again one of those paradoxes that you were talking about. I've seen we got the warning. We're almost out of time, but I have one more question for Eric.